Hi, Conanverse. You seem to be interested in modding, or you wouldn't be watching this video. I am Death to Mongo, and I am here to teach you the ways of the modding. We're going to start off real simple in this series. We're going to do little blocks of topics, short videos, trying to just cover a single subject at a time and not get too overwhelmed in any one tutorial. This way it's easy to access things that are specific to your questions. And of course, you're welcome to just watch them one after another as once they're out and learn everything you can learn. So this tutorial, we're going to call this number 1, is going to cover the very basic initial setup of your mod. So the first thing you have to do is download the Epic Games Launcher. I'm going to assume you're smart enough to do that on your own, but I'll provide a link in the description. And once you get that downloaded, you're going to come over here to the modding page. You're going to click on Conan Exiles, and you're going to click download. At that point, you're going to go probably see a movie or do something for a couple days while the enormous Devkit downloads. I'm warning you now, it's many tens of gigs. I think 80 gigs at this point, because you're literally downloading every piece of content and art asset that comes with the game. So be warned and make sure you have enough hard drive space. I personally installed this on an SSD. I think it makes it run a little better, but I've also run it on a hard drive, and you'll get away with it. Now that you've gotten it downloaded and probably seen 2 or 3 movies, hopefully Guardians of the Galaxy was fantastic, we're going to hit launch. I cheated. I've already launched it, but you're going to go through that experience on your own, and I trust you'll make it to this point. Okay. Hopefully you've launched it now. Maybe not. Maybe your computer's really slow and you're sitting there watching this video, so pause it. Pause it quickly. Hopefully you're done pausing and you've got your Devkit open. First step, this is all Unreal Engine. This is all the stuff that comes with Unreal Engine and Conan Exiles. Mostly the Conan Exiles, all the blueprints and art assets, everything involved in making the game. See this little thing up here, the Conan Exiles Devkit? First thing we're going to do is we're going to click this drop down, and we're going to click Create a New Mod. And here you're going to type in something really freaking awesome. For my case, in this tutorial, I just called it tutorial, and I already created that mod. We're in it right now. But once you click this, you're going to see this switch to the new mod right after creating it. It's going to close the client once you hit create, and and it'll relaunch it. So again, pause this video if you're waiting, a good long while to relaunch it. Once it's launched, we can start again. Okay, you must be back. Now you can see here I've got a bunch of mods in here that I've been working on, but I've got my tutorial project is gray. That's the one that we have currently selected. So this is a brand new mod I just created, and it should be in the exact same state as yours right now. So we're going to go to the mods folder right here, and we're going to open that, and you'll see your mod here. In this case, tutorial project. Open that up, and it's empty, completely freaking empty. So where do we start? Where do we start on our first mod? First thing we're going to do is create a new blueprint class. And we can click here on blueprint. I got this up by right-clicking. So blueprint class. And we're going to parent this to another class. So these are all the classes that exist in the game. And if we type in here, mod controller, we can see here that there is a mod controller. Inherit from this class to have your own mod controller. It provides onload mod, add component to class, and merge data tables. So this is like the golden ticket right here. This is what's going to make all our mods work together and gives us a lot more power in our mods to make them so they don't crash and burn every single time Conan Exiles gets updated. So we'll just click on this, hit select, and we're going to give this a name. The standard naming protocol in Conan Exiles is typically BP, and then a descriptive name for what it is. So I'll call this mod controller. You can call it whatever the heck you want, but using consistent naming conventions will save you a lot of stress later on when you're looking for things and trying to know what does what. Now, before we go into this, we're going to make one more thing. So we're going to come up here. We're going to add a blueprint class again. This time we're going to go to actor component. Okay. We're going to create an actor component. We're going to call this AC, actor component, RPC component. It's a little redundant, I suppose. You can't have spaces in there, so a little redundant since it's actor component, RPC component, but again, you can name that whatever you want. So now we're going to go into our mod controller by double-clicking it. This loaded really fast for me. For you, you're probably sitting there wondering why it's not loading. This is one of the little quirks of the dev kit. Maybe Unreal Engine, but I'm pretty sure it's just the dev kit. The first time you open a blueprint, it's going to take a long time to process. And then once it's finally open, everything else will work great after that. But just be forewarned. So again, if you're waiting for this to open, go ahead and pause the video. And as soon as it's done, you can hit play again. I'll wait. Okay, you've got your mod controller open now. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on class defaults if it's not already selected. And up here, you're going to see additional class components. This is some of the most well-documented features in the dev kit. Be prepared going forward. A lot of functions and stuff are not documented yet, and you just kind of got to guess what things do. So this array allows us to register an actor component of our choice to add to an existing class. This is so important. This lets us change everything in the game with a lot more ease. Actor components, if you don't know what they are, I highly recommend you go watch a Unreal video on actor components and how they can affect the game. It's really brilliant, and it is one of the great things about how Unreal Engine works. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come here, we're going to hit the plus sign. So this is stored as an array, and typically you'll see this sort of layout, and this will probably be some sort of structure in the array. So our target class is going to be base player character. So every single character in the game is going to have this component on it. And that means we can easily access it, and it's going to let us talk to the server, because there's a problem with Unreal. Well, maybe not a problem, but it's just how it works. The only thing that can talk to the server is an owning class. And basically the player controller / player character, things that are the pawn of the player controller, are the only things that are allowed to talk to the server. So I'm not sure why, that's just how it is. But so this is really important for us to be able to talk to the server. It used to be that we had to modify base player character or the player controller ourselves to do all that stuff. And that created a ton of conflicts between mods if you wanted to do anything complex. So we're going to do component add. I'm going to type in RPC. And here's our actor component, RPC component, Department of Redundancy department. Now, if for some reason you had multiple components of the same type on a class, you could give them individual tags like this, and that will let you get a component by tag, where you give it the class and then the tag of the specific component. In this case, it's not super important, but it's a good thing to remember for the future. Okay, so we've added that. Now we can hit save, compile. So there's a couple more things we're going to want to do. Most people that come into Conan for modding very early on, their main goal is going to be to modify items or add items to the game. To do that, we're going to need to do item table modification. Now, I'm going to come out here to the content, and this is the main directory. We're going to quickly look at items. And right here, you'll see the item table. This is also the dye colors table, which is if you wanted to add dye colors. But right now, we're only going to worry about items. If we open this up, this is like every game item in the game. So pretty much everything that exists as an item in the game. Armor, weapons, crafting components, stations, building parts, everything is listed in here. Now, previous to the update that Scooper gave us, we would have to modify this table, the item table. which of course every time the devs updated something would cause all sorts of conflicts. We'd have to go through and implement their changes or take our stuff out, add it to the new table. It was a huge pain in the ass. It also meant that any mod that modified the data table would take precedence. So if you had 2 or 3 mods that modified the data table, only way you could use them together is if you actually had the last mod in the hierarchy implementing all the items from the other mods in their data table. No more. Now we get this beautiful thing here called mod table operations. And this little function, there's only a couple things you can do. And we're going to look at those right now. We can clear a data table, so we can completely wipe it out. We can merge data tables. And what that is when you combine the data tables, it'll overwrite any existing rows that have the same row header. So you can take your data table that has the exact same things as the main data table, item table, and it will overwrite anything that you've put in your data table. And then you can remove data table rows. Say there's something you just don't want in the game anymore, and you want to take it out of the main data table, you can just remove that row here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a merge data table. And in order for this to execute, we have to drag a line from here. This is the execution flow. So anytime functions are called and stuff like that, unless it's a pure function, which we'll talk about in another tutorial, we have to follow a flow of execution. It's essentially how things are ordered in the code in the order that things get processed. There's a lot of Unreal tutorials that will take you through the very basics of blueprints. I highly suggest watching them. I'll try and explain everything as we go so that you can learn as you go as well. So target self, this just means that this function exists inside this class and we're just using it inside our class. If we had a function on another class that we wanted to call, we'd have to get a reference to that class, and that would be the target of calling the function. Now merge into data table and to be added data tables. So this, we're going to want to get item table right here. So it should say item table. To be added data table. Well, we don't have that yet. So I'm just going to save and compile this. It's a really good habit to get into saving and compiling. You can actually also turn it on that anytime in your preferences, anytime you compile successfully, it automatically saves, which I have on because I am really paranoid about losing information. You will crash. It's going to happen. And it's just the reality of this dev kit. And in dev kit, most of the time the crashes will be your own fault, but sometimes it just crashes. So let's go back out here. Let's go back to content and let's go to our mods folder. Okay, you can also see it over here. This isn't always there automatically. If you click this little arrow, it's great when you got to move stuff around or you want a little easier thing to look at. Say I wanted to, come in here and drag something over, I could then do that. But for now, we're going to go to mods, go to open our tutorial project. Now I'm going to create a new folder here because I like sorting things. I leave stuff like this usually in the base folder because this is really global, important stuff that we want access to. So let's make a new folder, clicking on that, and we're going to call this data tables. Okay. And in the future, we'll put all our data tables in here for organization, so we know right where to look for them. So we're going to create a data table. When we create a data table, we have to pick a structure. A structure is a defined structure of variables. So it has a series of variables in it, and it's just a container for those variables. They're not classes, so they're not instantiated. They're not dynamic. Once you set it, that's what it is, and you can delete them. You can change them, but in general, they're very fixed. That's why we use them in data tables, because they're in a fixed point in memory, so they're very quick to access, and it's a great way to store static information that doesn't change. So we want to find in here item table row. Okay, and we should hit OK. And we're going to call this tutorial. Well, if we want to be real proper, we could call it DT or D for data table. Tutorial item table. Okay. Now we open this up, it's completely blank. Now, there's some programs we're going to do in another tutorial that will let us copy and move stuff around between data tables. It's outside of Unreal Engine. But for now, just to show you, we could add a real simple item here, and we'll call it Funny Bunny. Short desk. Desk is short for description. This is one funny bunny. And boy, this bunny is freaking funny. I mean, how funny is this bunny? I got mildly ahead of myself here. There's something really important we need to talk about. The row name. Now, if we go and look at our item table from Funcom, you'll notice that the row names are all numbers, and these are all unique numbers. So it's really important that any items you add have unique numbers. If you want to replace a row, it needs to have the same number as you see here. So we're going to come over here. The general practice amongst modders is to come up with a unique leader number. So a unique like prefix. It has to all be a number. For instance, my Conan Evolved mod is 444. And, you know, if anybody else uses 444, I'll just have to beat them until they change it. In this case, we're going to do, let's say, 897, okay? And you could make this as long as you want. It could be 89714. That makes it really, really likely that you'll never have a conflict. And then after that number is where you want to use a series of numbers that are unique to, say, the type of things or stuff like that for organization purposes and familiarity. So we're just going to call this 0001. So it's our first item, and it's just sort of a generic item. So you can see there, it says 897140001. 8971 being our prefix that we would use for every item in this data table. We need an icon. Is there any bunny icons? Maybe a rabbit icon? No. How about fur? Maybe a rug? Here we go. A hide rug. That's our funny bunny. Real cute. For the case of this, we're just going to call this a, I don't know. It's just a game item. And it's not a building class. It's not a visual object. It's nothing at this point. We're not really making anything specific here. We'll call it a material. It's something that's only going to exist in our inventory. But we just wanted to set up the real basics of it here. And that's pretty much all you need for an item to exist. So if we save this table and we go to our mod controller, we can now to be added data table. This is the added data table that's being merged into our item table. I'll just type in item table and we'll see our tutorial item table. And that's it. That's how we add our items. So in theory, if we hit play, and this is going to run a simulation of the game. And we'll get more into the different types of simulations you can run and configuring them later. You can see here there's some stuff here already. Yours will be completely blank. This is just because this is my testing database and it's already populated with things. So I'm going to hit Control-Shift-C. It's going to lag for a second while it loads the interface. That's a typical behavior on this level. I'm going to go to Other, and I'm going to type bunny. Oh my gosh, it's a funny bunny. So I can click that. Now if I open my inventory, again, a tiny bit of lag while it loads the inventory interface the first time. And this doesn't happen in game. This is just here. It's a funny bunny. This is one funny bunny. This bunny is freaking funny. I mean, how funny is this bunny? And that's our funny bunny. So that's how you add an item to the data table. This was merged into the normal data table, so all the information about the normal data table still exists. And this was tagged onto it with our custom number. And it now exists in the game as an item. And that's it for our first tutorial. How to set up your mod and add your first item. Thanks for watching, folks.